What is going on? Happy Tuesday out there. Woodward Bets back in the house. One of us freshly trimmed. The ladies at Lady Jane's hooked this guy up. Check him out. The other one, I'm growing my Pauly wings from Sopranos. You forget about it. So we got a haircut and a non-haircut, but we are here to talk some sports, break everything down. There he is. That's what I'm going for. And I got the grays going too, Scott. As we're getting old. We talked pre-show. You mentioned you had to go get trimmed to take care of those grays. I'm trying to do my best Pauly Walnuts impression here. So how we doing on this fine Tuesday?
I'm doing great. You get a haircut, the sun's out, get a little bit of, sun going on. I mean, it peps up your mood a little bit. And, hey, a lot of fun last night. 4-1-1 on our best bets, Chris. So BC and I.
That'll pep your mood too. That'll make things good.
Absolutely. And, hey, over the weekend, I haven't talked to you since the weekend. I mean, we did fairly well with some of our picks, even though we did have both the dogs. I mean, I had Stafford's rushing yards over 2.5. He had that in the first quarter, which I was pretty happy with that. But, I mean, I know BC and I talked a little bit about it, but, man, what a crazy weekend in NFL this weekend. I mean, those games were fabulous. It's can we get some more of that, please? That was man, that was really good for the NFL for those games to end the way they did. I mean, 3 games ended on a long field goal. I still get a kick out of the Bengals rookie kicker, who they did draft in the 5th round, by the way, which most people do not know that. So, when you try to draft a kicker in the 5th round, I'm sure the fan base was like, oh, what the hell is this bullshit? What are we drafting a kicker for? Man, the dude just sent you to the damn AFC Championship game. That's one of the better draft picks in a while, especially all these teams we see struggling with kickers. But, Matt Stafford gets there to the championship game. We saw incredible comebacks. I mean, man, it was good. Hopefully this weekend can live up to that this past weekend. But kind of looking forward here to see what we both think about the opening here of these 2 games this weekend, and see if we can get us a lean started already here for these 2 games coming up.
Yeah, for sure. We will certainly get into that, see what those lines are looking at. But you're right. I mean, those games, outside of my team losing, I mean, all in all, it was a pretty solid weekend of games. And, we were talking before the show, and everyone throws the term around, the best game I ever saw. And you and I agreed that USC-Texas showdown. I mean, Reggie Bush on one side, Vince Young on the other side, just back and forth. So, anyone that watched that game, to me, that's always the one that stands out. But Scott, this Buffalo, Kansas City, and I'm sure you guys talked about this yesterday. I caught some of the show, so we're not going to hammer it to death. But, I mean, what a performance by both of these guys. You're talking elite quarterbacks. We certainly got that. I mean, they just continued to go back and forth. Gabriel Davis, 4 touchdowns, just seemingly wide open. But Kansas City, Buffalo really messed up down the stretch there. I mean, the kickoff at the end, allowing the Chiefs to just kind of put 2 plays, allowing Kelsey to go right down the seam because you're playing a prevent defense. You mentioned the importance of these kickers. I mean, Butker comes through huge, and a lot of talk about the coin toss and things like that. We can save that for a day we don't have a lot of sports, and certainly get into that and what the overtime should look like. I'm a proponent of changing it, and there should never be ties in any sporting event ever, soccer, football, whatever it may be. But just crazy that Buffalo did not win that game, and we would have had our 2 dogs. I mean, felt like we had it sewn up. Stafford got the job done, and they looked like they were going to give that game away. You can never count out Tom Brady, so it was a great opportunity to jump in and bet live on that game. If you felt Brady was going to make a comeback, that you were getting plus 14 at one point, I think, probably even higher. And then Buffalo had it in the bag, Scott, but you can never count out Patrick Mahomes.
Man, I'll tell you what, the emergence of Josh Allen, though, was what was big for me. I mean, that dude's incredible, man. I mean, you can't play any better football than he played throughout the playoffs. I mean, he had 9 incompletions, I was told, and 10 touchdowns or something like that. Basically had more touchdowns than he had incompletions in the whole stretch of the playoffs. I mean, that dude looked great. The overtime rules, maybe they adopt something like the college. Maybe they just stick them each at the 50-yard line, give them 1 possession. Hey, if you kick a field goal, you kick a field goal. You score a touchdown, you do. And then if you both score touchdowns, go back to the dang 50-yard line, do it again. But, that was – that Buffalo defense was obviously gassed from being out in that field that much. And, Mahomes did that against the best defense in the NFL. It wasn't like they were a bunch of slouches either. I mean, the back of that defense in Buffalo has been highly touted all year. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but man, that's playoff football for you. I mean, hey, great players step up in those moments. And I believe Andy Reid told Mahomes, like, hey, when the times are grim, it's time for you to be the Grim Reaper. And man, did he go out and do that. So the only annoying thing for me is, Chris, we got to pay attention to, or we still got to hear about Mahomes, crazy little silly TikTok brother and his wife there spraying everybody with champagne when it's like 20 degrees outside. I don't think she'd appreciated that if she would have got a majority of that on her, probably a little nice expensive coat and all that other stuff. But either way, great times for football. I mean, I was real happy. Like I said, had a little party over here. We smashed like 10 boxes of Modelo's, Chris. If you would have been over here, we might have had to make it even 12. But a lot of good times. Football. There's no better sport really to sit around with a bunch of people and watch than football. So looking forward to. We got 3 more games, Chris. 3. I can't believe this season has already gone as fast as it's gone. I mean, we only got 3 games left, and it'll be getting into baseball time.
Come on, don't discount the Pro Bowl now. We got 4 games left. I mean, everyone's favorite game, the Pro Bowl. So it's a game I don't think I've watched in years. But we will certainly talk a little bit more NFL. Like Scott said, we'll break down the opening lines and take a look, see if there's anything we want to attack. But I want to let you guys know, a new sponsor in the show, as you guys know. So Better Rate Mortgage, the official sponsor here of the Woodward Bet Show. And at Better Rate Mortgage, family is more than blood. If you are looking for a new mortgage, come get treated like family. Actually, get treated better with Better Rate Mortgage. Visit mybetterrate.com or give them a call today, 248-480-4467 for all of your mortgage needs. Happy to have them on board here at the Woodward Bet Show, mybetterrate.com. So, Scott, let's talk a little bit news and notes here in the NFL. We'll certainly get into the NBA, 9 games on the docket here tonight, but something that hit a couple hours ago that was a little surprising in the coaching ranks. It's been kind of slow as far as some of these coaching openings, things like that. But now we add a very interesting domino to the mix here, a new job opening up and a new candidate potentially hitting the market. Sean Payton announces that he is stepping away from the New Orleans Saints head coaching job. So 15 years with New Orleans for Sean Payton. This one a little surprising, Scott. I know, first thing that came to my mind, Sean Payton, former Dallas offensive coordinator. So, you think about that. Are they potentially looking at making a move here with Mike McCarthy? Maybe he is stepping away, the old Urban Meyer, I need a year or 2, and then dig into a job. But this, is this one of the more sought-after jobs here? I mean, New Orleans, when you compare them to some of the other teams, obviously have that winning culture. They have a ton of pieces in place here. So where do you rank this job, first of all, and where does Sean Payton potentially land? Maybe nowhere. Maybe he does take a year off, but where do you see a good fit here for Sean Payton?
Yeah, I mean, that New Orleans job is obviously a really good job. For me, I would think it's one of the better jobs. I still think the Minnesota job is intriguing for me just because they have some decent young pieces, a guy like Justin Jefferson and so forth. But, I don't know. I mean, Sean Payton, that's interesting, going to Dallas, maybe a place like the Raiders. I mean, we know he likes to he seems to be an offensive guy, a quarterback kind of guy. I mean, does he end up going somewhere where, maybe we get a team like, somebody else like Miami, they got a new coach. Maybe he can lure a free agent quarterback like Aaron Rodgers somewhere. I mean, maybe that is a package deal that could come up here, but very interesting here. I mean, Sean Payton, I mean, obviously at this point, he would be the home run hire for any organization that needs a coach. I know we kind of joked a little bit about the Bears, which I heard the Bears had Jim Caldwell in today, but if Payton ends up going somewhere like Chicago, I mean, man, I don't know if I'd like to have him in the division here and have him be a guy here after he gets his feet settled and a year or 2 under his belt and build him up a team here. I don't think I would want to have to face Sean Payton year to year, especially twice. But interesting, very interesting. When I heard that news, I thought, wow, why would he want to leave such a place? I mean, I know he lost his right-hand guy with Drew Brees. I mean, this year, they did struggle trying to keep the quarterback. So who knows? It does seem like sometimes when, situations like this, and maybe it isn't as, sunshine and rainbows as it had been the years before. Maybe there was a little bit of a struggle there, but I'm still surprised here that Payton ended up walking away from New Orleans.
Yeah, definitely a shocker. So we'll see what happens. Again, not a lot of news on the GM coaching front. Sounds like Brian Daboll has emerged as a favorite for that Miami coaching job. So he, the offensive coordinator for Buffalo, of course. John Harbaugh sounds like he's going to be getting an extension here with the Ravens. We keep hearing the Jim Harbaugh rumors and whispers about the Raiders. Scott, I heard some more about the Dolphins this morning. I know Stephen Ross, with his Michigan connection, said, I'm not going to steal away your coach, but I think there's interest there on both sides as well. So I don't think we can let Jim Harbaugh off the hook yet. I think he does have some serious interest in some of these jobs. So we'll keep you updated on the coaching carousel here, the GM carousel, as we get through these last couple games we got left. But before we look at these games, Scott, I want to talk a little bit of baseball. I know there's snow on the ground, and we got our labor dispute going on here, but we also have a very big day as far as the Hall of Fame goes in baseball. So very interested in your take here. Today is the last chance for two of the best players of our generation, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, to be inducted into the MLB Hall of Fame. Bonds close last year, but not close enough. There's still the people out there that are not going to and will never vote for Barry Bonds. So two-part question here for both of these guys. Do you think they should be in? Do you think they get in with these votes today? So a big pivotal day here with the Baseball Hall of Fame voting.
Yeah, I do think that actually they both get in. I mean, Chris, I've had this discussion a few times with some of my baseball friends and over the last few years, especially Pete Rose and Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. And to me, the Hall of Fame should not decide what story is told. The Hall of Fame is there to tell the story of what happened throughout the history of baseball. So to me, these writers and their arrogance saying, oh, I'm not going to put them in. I mean, to me, that's chicken shit. Put them in there, put it on their plaque, what happened, tell the story. To me, I think that's worse if you're a guy like Pete Rose or Barry Bonds and they put some allegation or something like that, on your plaque that's there forever. I mean, that's going to be there forever. When you're gone or, whatever else, 20, 30, 50, 40, 100 years from now, I mean, that's still going to be on your plaque. So to me, tell the story of what happened. Tell the story about Barry Bonds and so forth. I mean, we watched Barry Bonds there in those magical seasons he had at the end. I mean, them 73 homers, I mean, that dude was seeing beach balls. He was getting literally one pitch per at-bat even to have a chance to swing at, and he barreled it up. I mean, his hand-eye coordination is incredible. I mean, you can argue the fact about all the, stats and everything else. It doesn't matter to me. That was the era of baseball. There's still some guys in right now that have been accused of steroids, the Ortizes and so forth. So to me, Roger Clemens was one of the best pitchers in baseball in my eyes that I've seen. I mean, that guy was definitely a bulldog, fun to watch to have on the mound. And you can't get any better than these two. I mean, put him in. Barry Bonds deserves to be in. I mean, if he didn't even get to the point in his career, Chris, where, he had those 4 or 5 magical seasons in the 73, the couple 40 homer at bats, he still would have been a Hall of Famer at that point. So to exclude him, to me, is just petty. It's just sad to see these, writers. I mean, what are they really trying to prove here? I mean, put them in. Tell the dang story. That's all we want to know. I mean, when my kid or grandson later on, wants to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame and says, hey, Grandpa, who's this guy here, 73 homers? And it says right there on his plaque that, he was part of the steroid era, he was the Balco thing, everything else. Just tell the story. That's all I say. But I hope they both get in, Chris. Barry Bonds was definitely a special player, but he definitely deserves to be in.
Yeah, a lot of avenues and prongs for me here. I could talk about this for hours, but I agree with you. Why do these writers get to decide the fate of these guys? You put them in, like you said, based on their statistics, which is what we have based all of our other Hall of Fame decisions on, not the type of person. I mean, we can go back to Babe Ruth. Was he the best person? Did he make mistakes? People make mistakes. Okay, people make bad choices. We all do. if you're sitting there right now and saying, well, not me, I call bullshit. I've made many bad choices in my life that I regret. But what do you do from it? You learn, you try to make a difference. Barry Bonds, before steroids, was a hell of a player. I mean, go back to his days with the Pittsburgh Pirates. The guy was incredible. So, sure, the numbers are a little bit inflated. Those numbers still would have been Hall of Fame caliber with the steroids or without them. So you put him in and you let the individual, like you said, your grandson or my aunt or my daughter or whoever is out there, they go visit the Hall of Fame. They decide. They look at the plaque and they say, well, I don't believe he should be in here. Everyone has that right to that opinion. Instead of a writer deciding it, why don't we get to decide that for ourselves? I may not agree with some of the people in any of the Hall of Fames. I mean, they're in there. I may like it, I may not, but I have that right as a person to choose, rather than these writers holding the holier than me stance, and I'm never voting for this guy or that guy or Pete Rose because he bet on baseball. Shit happens. We need to allow people to make mistakes and to work past them. But like you said, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, two of the best baseball players, two of the best athletes I have ever watched in my life. So for them not to be in the Hall of Fame because of this, I think is a travesty. So we'll see what happens here today. But I'm pretty passionate about this. Mistakes happen. Put these guys in the Hall of Fame where they belong.
Yeah, my 30-some Barry Bonds rookie cards and Roger Clemens cards will be happy, Chris, if he gets in. But they definitely deserve to be in. And as you mentioned, these writers sometimes, get over your guys' self. Stop. Put these guys in, as we said. Let the story be told. I think that's a bigger knock, like I mentioned, and then having a story like that on your plaque. It's not like we're putting them in squeaky clean and never going to mention anything. We should tell the dang story. That's the way it should be. But we'll see what happens there, Chris. I still think they're going to squeak in today. They were pretty close last year. I think these writers understand what's here at stake. They definitely will. But Barry Bonds being an asshole to the media didn't help him much either, I'm sure. So, I'm sure that kind of gets him.
Yeah, well, again, why should there be a handful of writers that get to vote on this? Maybe we need a better system. Maybe there's certain statistical benchmarks that get you in, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. So if you're in the comment section, let us know. Agree, disagree, and I want to hear all sides of an argument. Just because you may disagree with me, I'm not going to shut you out and tell you you're wrong. So if you're in YouTube chat right now, let us know what you think. Should these guys get in? Should they not? Should there be that asterisk? So let's talk a little bit of baseball here. I know, again, it's January. We're not thinking baseball, but a pretty historic day in MLB here. If you're catching it later on demand, whatever it may be, hit us up on our Twitter account at Woodward Bets, which you should be following anyway, and let us know your thoughts on this Bonds Clemens thing. So looking forward to hearing some of your guys' takes out there about this situation. All right, Scott, let's get into some of these. The NFL this weekend. Again, this is it. Conference Championship Day is always a lot of fun. Both games on Sunday, 3 o'clock kick and a 6:30. So let's look at these lines, see if there's anything we like. Chiefs and Bengals opening things up here. Opened at 7, Scott. Remains at 7 here on the spread. Total has moved a little bit. Opened 53.5. That's up to 54.5 as expected. Two very good offenses here. I do see 107.5 out there looking now at BetMGM, but heavy juice on the plus 7.5 for the Bengals. So anything here that you want to jump on? Anything look out of whack? This one about where I thought it would be. About a touchdown, somewhere in the low to mid 50s on the total. So everything kind of checks out here. I don't see anything major I want to get on here, Scott. Anything for you in this one early on?
Yeah, I was just, right before the lines came out, I wrote my numbers down, what I thought they were. And actually, Chris, I did have this game at about 49 total in this one here. So I think we're getting a spread, over under here that's a little higher than I thought. I thought it'd be around 50-ish. So we're about 4 or 5 points over what I thought here. The Bengals playoff games, every one of their playoff games has gone under. The Bengals have actually covered their last 6 in a row as well. So I think that is interesting. But these Chiefs here, obviously the Chiefs, their last 7 games, Chris, have gone over. So, you're talking about a team, 6 games gone under. So now we got a team with 7 games going over. Obviously, having Mahomes helps that quite a bit. But I gonna have to see here. I don't know. Maybe if this is something I might tease up, maybe give Cincinnati the extra 6 points here. I'm not really sure. I might dive more into the props as they come out throughout the week. Some of these player props that I think might be interesting. But yeah, I think this one here is right about where it should be. And now if it starts climbing above 7, Chris, I think I might start leaning the Bengals. If we start getting 7.5 and 8, I think I would take that little bit extra there. It just seems like these Bengals are pesky. They're going to stay in. They're going to stay in the game here. I don't see them getting blown out. So to me, I think possibly the tees, or once we start getting over 7, I think that's when I'm going to start leaning toward the Bengals a little bit more.
Yeah, I like Cincy too. Now that I'm thinking about this and looking at some of the spreads across the board, some of the plus 7s, minus 112 at some places. So, and then there's the minus 7 at DraftKings for Kansas City's minus 115. So you're always keeping an eye on those juice numbers. As it gets close to minus 120, the line is likely going to move. So if you see you see Kansas City minus 7, your line is minus 120. The next move is to move that to minus 7.5. So just keep that in mind. If you start seeing it trending, that's usually the first step, is that juice starts to move towards one way or the other. So I do like Cincinnati here as well, and I don't know that it falls under a touchdown. That would be my concern of not jumping early, is that, this thing goes to 6.5, and, you want to have that 7, obviously. Or do you wait it out and see, does it potentially go the other way, and you're getting a little bit more the 7.5. I think when you weigh those two options, Scott, I would rather jump in at the 7 now than wait for the extra half a point on the other side. So the debate is 7.5, 6.5. What's more valuable to wait on? I would feel worse about it falling under 7 than better about it being 7.5. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and for me, I mean, that's the thing here, early part of the week, when you're looking at these lines, like you said, though, you could check that juice number. When that juice number starts going up, eventually once it's around 120, 125, that's when it goes to the next point level or whatever else. You generally don't see these lines at minus 130, minus 140, unless they are props, really. You generally don't see, the mainstream bets, let's call the spread and the over-under. You generally don't see them get up that high. But, as you mentioned here, BetMGM was the first one to have it at 7.5. So I do feel, and sometimes too, Chris, I think the bigger books, when they move, I think you see a lot of the smaller books tend to fall right behind. So like when I see a giant like FanDuel or DraftKings or BetMGM, or somebody along those lines, or Caesars, when you see these, bigger type books start moving stuff around, generally they do fall in line. But yeah, definitely interested here to see how these Bengals come out. I mean, they're the underdog of the 4 teams here. I mean, Joe Burrow and the Bengals here, obviously, are in a position here they've never been in. Here we have the Chiefs on the doorstep of the Super Bowl again. So hopefully, I'm just kind of rooting here for the Bengals. I'd like to see the youngsters get in there in that Super Bowl against Matt Stafford. And I guess maybe, Chris, I'm kind of leaning that way just because I do have a bet, obviously, as we said at the beginning of the season, on the Rams to win the Super Bowl. And I think they'd have an easier chance with the Bengals than they would the Chiefs. So I guess I'm kind of leaning and thinking about my bet there, which would be best for the Rams, but and Matt Stafford. And I think a matchup with the Bengals would be a little bit easier for them than to have to face off against the Chiefs.
Let me ask you a question. I like the Bengals too. I think we get a close game. So anytime I think it's going to be a close competitive game, obviously you want the underdog and the points here rather than laying the 7 points. We know how explosive Kansas City can be. My question to you and what I'm wondering, do you think there's going to be any hangover with the Chiefs? You can look at this in 2 ways. This is a battle-tested team. They've been down all the roads. They've been to the Super Bowl. They've done it all. So it can be easy to dismiss that point. But that took a lot out of them to win that game, And again, you could say they're riding high. It's going to propel them on to the Super Bowl and potentially a world championship. Or, is it a hangover? Sometimes those kind of games, as we've seen, can take a lot out of you. It took everything they had to beat this Buffalo Bills team. Maybe we see a little bit of a hangover here Cincinnati comes in and shocks them a little bit. So just discussing those scenarios. And again, you can look at it from either side of things. I understand that, but any potential hangover here from that last game of Buffalo, or do you believe it springboards them forward?
I mean, that's a great point, Chris. I mean, you think about it, we've talked about situational type bets, hey, is this team here, maybe looking ahead, or could they be in a spot here where they just did exert a ton of energy? I mean, let's be real. I mean, the Chiefs, when they looked at that playoff bracket, Chris, damn well they pointed at the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the Kansas City Buffalo matchup, whether it happened last week or whether it would be going on this week, that is the game to me the Kansas City Chiefs had circled. They know damn well what was at stake when those two met in the playoffs. And as you mentioned, I mean, that had to take a lot out of them mentally and physically. I mean, especially mentally. I mean, to go through that game and then the rest of the week here, I mean, you still got to be on a high. I mean, I can't imagine those guys, showing up to practice today. They still got to be talking about that game. So, I mean, Chris, that's a great point. I do think that is something that needs to be thought about here in your process. Like, who did they play last? How much emotion did it take out of these guys? I think, you really can't get, I mean, we're talking about one of the best games ever, Chris. I mean, to come off that game has to be just mentally tough. So we'll see. You know what? Maybe, Chris, maybe this is a spot here where we like the Bengals in the first half. Maybe they come out flat, that being the Chiefs, and maybe they, pull it together there in the second half. Maybe that's something we got to think about here. Maybe a first half bet on the Bengals is something to think about here. As we mentioned, maybe we load up on a couple of the Bengals to score first or something along those lines. But I do think that's a great point here that we got to think about. I mean, that has to be an emotionally draining situation there for the Chiefs. So let's see how they come out. I mean, if they come out flat, I mean, that's something that we'd want to be on for sure. I mean, we got to look for every little edge we can find. And maybe that's one, Chris. I think maybe that, when we're talking about it here, I'm talking myself into a Bengal bet in the first half, and maybe even an under in the first half. Maybe we just see a slow type game, not coming out gunslinging. We'll see, though. But great point about them being mentally drained.
Yeah, just something to think about, something to, again, add to, like you said, add it to at least your thought process. Maybe it doesn't hold some weight for as many people as I think it potentially could. So, again, let us know. Do you think that's something to worry about with the Chiefs? In that comment section, I want your best bet on this game. Who are you guys jumping on here? Is it Cincinnati? Are you getting on Kansas City here before the spread potentially goes up? Anything on the total? Let us know in that comment section. We'd love to hear who you guys are going after. And, of course, we will be breaking this thing down top to bottom here, going through this week, getting you ready. We'll do it twice. We'll take our initial look at all these games probably tomorrow, and then we'll be back Sunday morning really going in depth on the game, DFS, props, and our best bets, of course. So don't worry. We'll have you covered. Make sure you guys are tuning into the show, of course, every weekday, 6 o'clock Eastern, and Saturday, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. So plenty of football talk still to come in this one, Scott. One other trend I found pretty interesting here, a couple actually. Cincinnati, very good against the number. I mean, they're 12-7 against the spread this season, 63%. Scott, they have covered 7 of their last 8 games away from their home stadium. So they've been very good going on the road and covering these numbers. So it makes me feel a little bit better. Again, I think they're going to be competitive. I think we get a close game here, but the numbers certainly support us there as well, as they've done very well on the road against the number.
Yeah, I mean, that's something definitely to pay attention to. I mean, if you're a good road team, Chris, I mean, that is obviously huge in the NFL. That's something that is a pretty heavy weighted stat for me. If you can go out and win on the road in the NFL, I mean, that's saying something. I think it's especially at this time of year. And Chris, I kind of chuckled, man. Joe Burrow said that these NFL stadiums are not as loud as these SEC stadiums. So he said it doesn't even faze them to go out on the road. So, hey, I like the confidence the young kid has. I mean, to be able to say something like that, like, hey, maybe my college stadiums were louder than this. And, hey, he might be right. I mean, he played down there in LSU. I mean, and then you're traveling out to Alabama and, some of these stadiums. I mean, I've been to a couple SEC games down south, and man, they're a lot of fun, definitely loud. Been to some LSU games, been to some Alabama games, and some Tennessee games actually. But man, it's That was a pretty bold statement that the youngster said, but I mean, obviously he has no fear of going out on the road here to Arrowhead. So we'll see what happens and how the youngsters fare. But like I said, I mean, good point about them being mentally drained. And hey, I'm gonna take this touchdown. If it gets over a touchdown, I think that number for me is where it teeters. If it goes under a touchdown, I think I'd be real hesitant. Over a touchdown, more it gets over a touchdown, the more I like the Bengals.
That's the debate. Do you wait and see if this thing goes to 7.5? Maybe you wait too long and it falls under that touchdown. So I would, if I'm doing anything, and I'm going to be certainly looking at it today, I like being over that touchdown. So I'm probably going to lock in at the 7. If you are looking at the money line right now, if you think the Bengals can win this game, and I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities at all. Looks like anywhere from plus 250. As high as plus 285 at Bet Rivers. FanDuel plus 275, DraftKings plus 260, and BetMGM plus 275. So some decent returns there if you think the Bengals can win this game outright. All right, let's go to the nightcap. Here again, the NFC Championship kicking off at 6:30 from LA. We got the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford, of course. The local story here we'll be hearing plenty about Matthew Stafford here. But let's take a look at these lines. Open up Rams minus 3.5. It moved a little bit to 3, back to 3.5. There is still a 3 out there at PointsBet. Minus 120 on that 3 though. Best lines on the Niners plus 3.5. A lot of minus 115s there at DraftKings and BetMGM. The total sitting right at 46.5. No major movements on that total yet. So obviously the first thing we got to talk about here, besides Matthew Stafford, of course, Scott, to the San Francisco side, we saw Deebo Samuel banged up a little bit. We saw George Kittle banged up a little bit. Word is they're going to be fine. They're going to play, but watching Deebo limp off the field there, not a good sign there. So we'll keep an eye on that. But thoughts on this line, thoughts on things kind of staying steady here. It's about what I thought it would be. I pegged this one Rams minus 4, and I was right in the total at 46. So a little bit light on that, but pretty close to what I thought this would be. What says you? Were you close on this one? Anything off? Anything you want to jump on here?
Yeah, the over-under was just a couple points lower than I thought it would be. I actually had, anywhere between 3.5 and 4.5. I thought the spread would be. It's pretty close to that. And then I thought to myself, 47, 48, probably be around the over-under. But seeing where it is doesn't surprise me. And both these two teams, if you look at, their historical battles here, I mean, the 49ers have owned these guys against the spread. The underdog's 6-0 their last 6 meetings. The 49ers are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 meetings. And the 49ers are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 trips to LA. So obviously the 49ers are a tough out here for the Rams. I got to assume, though, being a division game, they know both these two teams know each other very well. The Rams are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 against the NFC. The Rams also under 17-4 in their last 21 games as a home favorite. So a couple trends leaning that way. Kind of just looking at some of the money coming in here. 52% coming in on the Rams at minus 3.5, 48% coming in on the Niners here. Chris, I think that little extra hook kind of has me a little bit here. I do like the Rams. That little extra hook scares me. We've seen too many field goal games here recently. And I mean, that extra half point is just such a little powerful little 0.5 there. Just drives me absolutely crazy. But I think I'd rather have the Rams here like minus a 3. Hopefully it drops down a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, this game here, I think, is going to be a really good game. I think this one here is just going to really depend who makes some mistakes. We saw Akers fumble. We saw, how many sacks here did the 49ers have? If they get after Stafford and the Rams here, I think that could be trouble. And especially Jimmy G and the 49ers, they don't want to get down. They got to stay ahead here. They got to be able to run the ball. They run so many different formations. I think it was 71% of the time I saw they're one of the leading teams in the NFL that has motion there at the line of scrimmage. So they like to move guys around, matchup nightmares, and hopefully Deebo Samuel can, he can get it back together here. He did limp off. I mean, that looked pretty bad. I mean, he didn't want to put any pressure on it there at the end of that game. But Yeah, Chris. I think this one here, though, I think the Rams are ready. I think the Rams are in a position here. I think they're focused. I think Matt Stafford, as well as he played that last game, he looked laser sharp. I think he looked ready for this challenge, and I think he's going to get him there across the line. I think we're going to end up seeing a Rams and Chiefs Super Bowl is what I'm guessing.
I kind of like the Niners here, and I'm going to give you some stats here momentarily about the Niners. But one thing to keep an eye on here, obviously we know the Rams were without Andrew Whitworth last week, their star left tackle. Sean McVay came out and said he's on track to play here against the Niners, and obviously it would be a welcome back addition to the lineup. You know, you're going against one of the premier pass rushers in the league in Nick Bosa. You certainly want your left tackle back in there. So we'll keep an eye on that situation with Andrew Whitworth. But Scott, San Francisco has dominated this rivalry of late. You can't even call it a rivalry. When you look at some of these numbers, they have won the last 6 meetings between these two teams. They have covered 5 of the last 6 against this Rams team. So you're talking 3 straight seasons that they have gone into Los Angeles and won, and pretty convincing, or I guess some of them were close, but we just had that 27-24 game a couple weeks ago, week 17, back to 2020, 23-20, 2019, they won 20-7. So any worry about that? I mean, that's a pretty, the saying is that they have their number. The Niners, again, have dominated. So if you are in the chat, thoughts on those trends, thoughts on those stats. Is it 7 in a row here? The Rams do certainly look sharp, Scott, but I think I'm leaning the Niners with the points here. I think we get another very close competitive game. We talked about it last week with the Niners. You call me the pessimistic Packers fan, but I was worried. That's a team that can go on the road. They know how to win on the road. They have the pieces on both sides. Deebo Samuel is a monster. I mean, this guy plays football the way you love to see it. I mean, there's no fear there. They have the defense to hold this Rams team in check. So I'm on San Francisco here. Those trends worry you at all here with 6 in a row, covering 5 of the last 6 for the 49ers?
Absolutely it does. But I mean, the last 2 games have only been with Stafford. Obviously, Goff was there for the 4 before that. But, I mean, San Francisco, that defense, I think that coaching staff of San Francisco's up and down their coaching roster is one of the better coaching staffs in the NFL. Shanahan's obviously proven himself. I think he is, especially this season. And we know here, and I mentioned it here on the show before, I mean, that defensive line coach for San Francisco is Chris Kasurik, who used to be with the Lions, who is a highly regarded coach here in the NFL. I mean, he gets his boys to play. If you ever seen videos of him, he's out there in practice, Chris, and he's yucking it up with these boys. He's getting in there, getting after it. And that intensity, I mean, these guys love it. And I think they got the coaching staff there to drum up a game plan to maybe frustrate Stafford. And let's not forget, Stafford did and is leading the NFL in interceptions this year. So I think if they can get a turnover or 2, I think that's going to change this game here. I think that's really what it's about. We're going to probably be able to look back at the game, Chris, and pull out 3 plays, and we're going to be able to say that these 3 plays literally were probably the difference in the game. And whether it be, a big play, a pick 6, something along those lines, a fumble. So I think that is what's going to be the difference here of these teams. But, I think this one here is going to be a good game. Really interested to see, how these 2 coaches match up against each other, as you mentioned. I mean, they're division rivals, Chris. I mean, they know each other better than anybody else here. Obviously, those 2 have been at the top of their division. So, man, I mean, let's see what happens here. I think this one's going to be decided up in the press box and with the guys with the headsets on. So we'll see how both these 2 coaching staffs do here. And if I had to just pick by the coaching staffs, Chris, I think I'd side with you, yes, here with the 49ers. But I just think the Rams, with some of the additions they had, the OBJs, the Von Millers, I think that's going to help them get over the top here. And, hey, they put all their chips in the middle of the table, Chris. I think they're going to get there. Now the question is, if they just get to the Super Bowl, is that good enough? Or do they need to win the Super Bowl to validate all those trades and all those draft picks that they gave away?
I think you got to win it. As a the Detroit viewpoint on things. Let's just get to the playoffs. Let's just get to some teams have different levels of expectations, and when you go out and you make a trade, you didn't bring Matthew Stafford in to get you to an NFC championship, to make a Super Bowl appearance. The Rams' expectations are we need to win the Super Bowl. So I think anything short of that is a bust for any of these teams. These are some of the classiest organizations in the league. Cincinnati, kind of the newcomer here, but these teams have set a bar of excellence, and I think anything short of that would be a disappointment. So as far as trends go, both these teams have been very good of late against the number. San Francisco's covered 9 of their last 11 games. The Rams have covered 6 of their last 8. The Niners have covered 7 of 10 road games of this season as well. Obviously, these last couple certainly helping that cause, but 2 teams have been pretty good against the number here. So any thoughts on this total? Again, you thought it would be a little bit higher. Is that making you lean towards the over on this one?
I just kind of looking at some of these individual quarterback stats here, in their recent results. I mean, they're really, neither one is really lighting up the scoreboard. I mean, you look at the Rams here. I mean, Stafford had 366 against Tampa, 202, 238, 309, 197. So, I mean, 3 of his 5 games, Chris, have been under 250. And then you go over there and look at Garoppolo. Garoppolo's in the same boat. 3 of his last 5 games have been under 250. And 2 of them actually under 100 his last 2. So it does make you wonder here how much, of the run game both these teams are going to rely on. I think if San Francisco gets up ahead and they can control this game, Chris, I think this game will be a pretty slow game, actually. I think it's something you're going to see like we saw in Green Bay, a very low-scoring game. But if the Rams get out in front and score a few points, it's going to open up it's going to force San Francisco to open up a little bit and play a little bit quicker. So at this point, Chris, I think I'm kind of leaning the under, actually, in this one here. But, I think this game here really will be determined on who can control, the flow of the game. And I think that first quarter is going to be really important. I actually like, at this point, Chris, I think I like the under in the first half of this game here. I think this one could come out slow. I think both teams, especially San Francisco, is want to try to slow it down a little bit here and keep that Rams offense off the field. I know Shanahan knows he can't win a shootout, so I think he's going to have to try to keep it, slow. So I think at this point, Chris, I might be leaning the under in the first half is something I'll be looking at.
Yeah, I think I like the under here as well. Just going back 2 years, unders hit 3 of the 4 matchups. This last 2 matchups between these teams, we had 1 over and 1 under. So we had 51 points in that Week 17 matchup. Back in November, 31-10 in favor of the Niners. That total was at 50.5. So 46.5 was the closing total on that Week 17 number. Makes sense that we get a similar number here in this playoff game. So exciting stuff. Really looking forward to these games. Again, we'll be breaking them all down. But again, chat, I'm asking you, what's your favorite bet in this game? Are you on the Niners? Are you on the Rams? Like a little bit of money line here. Anything on the total? Let us know. As far as the money line, if you're looking at the Rams, best price -170 at DraftKings. As far as the Niners go, I'm seeing some +155s at BetMGM and BetRivers. Lowest there, +146. So some decent numbers there for the San Francisco 49ers. So, Scott, anything else? NFL, we'll be talking plenty of football here throughout the week, but I wanted to get that initial look at some of these numbers here.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, shop around. I mean, look around. I mean, you look at some of these numbers. I mean, you can get 10 cents different on the money line with San Francisco at some spots. So always good to shop around. And, hey, we're getting close to the Super Bowl, Chris. Some of these sports books are going to start to throw out some pretty good, like matching. Like, hey, we'll match your first bet up to this or that. I mean, hey, if you only got 2 books, let's say you got DraftKings and FanDuel, there's nothing wrong with throwing in, and go to a BetMGM or go to Caesars. Don't use those opportunities on your first-time bet to get yourself ahead here, especially during the Super Bowl time. I think if you've been thinking about it, just wait here. Wait until after this NFC and AFC championship games. You're going to see these guys put out their best foot forward here. So if you've been contemplating and thinking about maybe adding another book, give it another week or 2 here, because I think you're going to see some pretty juicy and some pretty nice promotions that they're going to be throwing out. And we'll be sure to try to mention a few of them, but just keep your ear to the ground. I think now this is a good time of the year. If you want to add another book, now's the time.
Yes, agreed. There's going to be a lot of promos out there, so certainly something to dig into. Scott, let's talk some NBA here. The slate's going to be locking here soon, so wanted to get some plays, some information out to the people. So quick look at the injuries. We'll just stick with the big names. Brooklyn going to be out without Kevin Durant, who we know is going to be out for a few weeks. Also, Kyrie Irving going to sit tonight. So James Harden, in my eyes, clearly the top play on this slate tonight. No Paul George once again. For the Clippers, no Brandon Ingram for the New Orleans Pelicans. Damian Lillard remains out for Portland. Jonas Valanciunas will miss tonight's game along with Josh Hart for New Orleans. Draymond will remain out for the Golden State Warriors. Devontae Graham also going to miss for New Orleans. So plenty of value there with the Pelicans here tonight. Klay Thompson dealing with some left knee soreness. We'll see if he plays. Jeremy Grant remains out for the Detroit Pistons. So Scott, let's give some top plays here. People finalizing these lineups before lock. Obviously, James Harden again, top of the list in my book. Who else are you looking at here in DFS NBA tonight?
Yeah, obviously Harden without Kyrie and Durant. I mean, the usage is just so high. I mean, they run him out there. I mean, we already know he's probably going to get 40 some minutes tonight. So definitely Harden's a guy. But man, down there at center, especially tough on fans. They got the Joker Embiid. Embiid has been playing so good at such a high level here. You know, I think we're going to want to jam in. It's pretty easy on FanDuel actually to jam in Harden and Embiid. There's a couple low value guys you can look at. You can look at Jose Alvarado. I think he's interesting. A guy that you could look at, Jalen Brunson, I think is a guy. Maybe a Jackson Hayes, another spot there for some value. Maybe a little Tyrese Maxey tonight. Al Horford's a guy you might be able to look at on the low end to help you get a couple of these stars, and then have a couple scrubs here on the bottom. But for me, Chris, I mean, if you can jam in Harden and then jam in one of these centers here, I think that's the way to go. I think I would lead Embiid just as how well he's been playing. But obviously, you can look at, a couple here of these back-to-back games. The only team on a back-to-back is the Pelicans. So, I mean, you might want to watch a little bit with Josh Hart. I understand he did hurt his ankle. He was able to come back, but we'll see if he gets out there again tonight. But, yeah, for me, Harden is definitely a guy you're going to want to have in there. And then for me, too, I think I'm going to try to jam Embiid in there. Maybe if I make multiple lineups, I might just switch Embiid with the Joker and see what I get. But I think Harden's going to have to be on every one of my teams.
Yeah, Josh Hart's out tonight, so that news came out a little bit earlier. So New Orleans is certainly a team you're going to have to load up on. Now that the guys everyone's going to be after, Willie Hernangomez, his minimum price on FanDuel, can play him at power forward even, so it can keep that center spot open. Cash games, he's a must. Tournaments, I don't mind the fade here. I think there's some other options we can look at. Nickeil Alexander-Walker also going to be very popular here for New Orleans, just 3,800. So those guys, great cash game plays again. But tournaments, I think on that same team, you can pivot to guys you mentioned already, Scott. Jose Alvarado, I don't think he'll have a fraction of the ownership of those two guys. Jackson Hayes, as kind of a big man, a little bit more expensive than Hernangomez, but way less owned on this slate. Even Tomas Satoransky should get some run here with the Pelicans down Graham, down Hart, down Ingram. I mean, they're missing all of their offense here. Toronto, another team I really like tonight. Nice matchup here with Charlotte, so kind of a mid-range play with Fred VanVleet. OG Anunoby in that mid-range I think makes a lot of sense. Harden, like you mentioned, is easily the top play on this slate. Deciding between Jokic and Embiid, this Detroit interior, we're going to talk about them here and try to get some bets before this game locks, but I'm leaning Embiid here, or I'm leaning Jokic. Both guys, you can make the argument, maybe the game gets out of hand. Embiid going against New Orleans, who's going to be thin, going to be missing Valanciunas, so great matchup there, but can New Orleans stay competitive? I think the Detroit Pistons at home are going to be able to compete more than the New Orleans Pelicans on the road. So I lean Jokic here in this one. Scott, let's dig into this game here tonight. Pistons and Nuggets here. Latest spread looks like Denver about -7.5 on this one. Pretty high total here, about 216.5. Anything there? Anything in the props here? This game going to be starting here shortly, so I wanted to get to people a little in-depth look here at the Pistons tonight.
I mean, we always like the Cade Cunningham props, of course. So looking at that as far as his points here. I wanted to see if I could see here total player points. Looks like we got 17.5 for Cade, minus 102 on FanDuel. I don't mind that. I think they're going to have to use him to score. Jokic, over 25.5 points at minus 114. I don't think that's too bad either. And then you look at the rebounds, Joker, over 12.5. I think that is a decent one as well. Player assist, too, tonight. Cade Cunningham, over 5.5. We've been seeing that around 4.5, Chris. They got it bumped up to 5.5 at minus 132. So, man, I think that is kind of a high number for Cade and them assists. Like, he's been right around 4 or 5, but I don't know about that 5.5 there. But, Chris, I think I maybe look at maybe Cade Cunningham over 17.5 points in this game.
Yeah, I don't hate that one. They're gonna need his offense for sure. I think my favorite one is probably the Jokic one you mentioned. I don't know who's going to slow him down on this Detroit team. So you need the Pistons to stay competitive. Is your only issue with a bet? We've liked overs on the other teams. We've liked unders. I know you had one on Ja Morant when they played the Pistons. I had the one on Steph Curry last week or whenever it was. So that's the worry. It's not the matchup. It's can Detroit stay competitive? But with this game being at home, the spread is within single digits. I think Jokic absolutely dominates this team. So you can go with the points, rebounds. I think I'm leaning just the points here for this one. So, again, his points prop, let me find it. What did you say it was? 25.5, I believe? 25.5. Minus 114. If you are looking at some of those other combinations, let's see, Jokic. Points, rebounds, and assists. He is at 46.5. So, quite a big jump there. So I'm going to go with the points in that one, and I don't hate the Cade Cunningham points either. So give you one on each side here of this one. But Scott, before we get into some Michigan State hoops tonight, I know we have another new sponsor here of the show that you introduced yesterday in a big way, and a sponsor that you went and visited here the other day. So why don't you let the people know one of the new sponsors here, the Woodward Bet Show.
Yeah, I was over at the studio, and the boys told me, hey, you guys got a new sponsor, Jars Cannabis Company. So you can shop jarscannabis.com. They offer delivery. They offer in-store shopping. The Michigan's largest variety for any of your lifestyle needs. So if, you like to get in with the flower, the dabs, whatever else, the edibles, they had quite the selection. That is for sure. But Jars Cannabis Company, medical and recreational retailer located throughout Michigan, Lansing, Detroit, Flint, Grand Rapids, and more. And guess what, Chris? If you mention the Woodward Sports Network and the Woodward Bets team, you get 20% off at any Jars location. So, hey, if you spend $100, they might give you 2 nice $10 pre-rolls for free for just mentioning us. So get over there, give them check them out. And Chris, like I said, I did go over there yesterday. I got a couple pre-rolls and actually lit one up yesterday here and gave it a little rip a few times, and very good, very happy with it, and had some fun with that last night, Chris. After we got off the show, I was watching some games and fired up the heater out there in the garage and enjoyed that pre-roll, and came back in and watched our bets get across the finish line, 4-1-1 last night. I'll tell you what, Beastie was nailing them hockey games. And one game had 8 goals on the lines he was telling us to play. So definitely enjoy when Beastie breaks down some hockey. Got in there a little bit last night, Chris, and 3x my money. So good job there, Beastie. We always appreciate when you come on here and roll out some hockey winners for us. But we're going to do that again tonight here, Chris. That's for sure. When we get to the best bets, I already got a couple here that I like. But yeah, looking forward to we got a Michigan State game tonight too, Chris. We got Michigan State and the Illini tonight that I think I'm going to bet on tonight. I mean, we got the underdog. I mean, the Sparties here going into Illinois minus getting 5 points here. I think that is interesting in this game here tonight. So over under 142 started at 145. Illinois actually is at minus 4.5 at this point. So 65% of the money's coming in on the Sparties. Sparties 10-7-1 against the spread. Illinois is just 9-9 against the spread. Looking at past here, the home team is 5-0 against the spread their last 5 meetings. The Sparties, we know they struggle a little bit here against Northwestern. They had 17 turnovers that game. They cleaned it up against your Badgers. in that battle for first place, and ended up squeaking out a victory out there in Madison by 12 points. So the Spartan team here is good enough to win on the road. I don't know if those 4 or 5 points are going to be enough here tonight, but I think I'm leaning Sparties in this one here tonight, Chris.
Yeah, Spartans for me as well. Impressive against my Badgers the other night. That game tipping off here momentarily, so wanted to squeeze it in here. But they've been on a roll here, Scott. They've won 10 of their last 11 games. Illinois, it's been a struggle. They went on a nice little run to start the season, but lost to Purdue at home. Go to Maryland and lose. They've only been 500 against the spread, 9-9 here on the season. Michigan State has covered 10 of their 18 games here, so. I like Sparty in the points. I don't hate the money line as well. Again, kind of shock people, maybe not with that win in Wisconsin. That they played well. They controlled that game from start to finish. Even when the Badgers started to make a comeback, Michigan State slammed that door and kept that double-digit lead pretty much throughout that second half to close them out. Illinois, a very good team, one of the better teams in the Big Ten. But Sparty started around into form, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's only a matter of time before they got it going. This spread is too high, in my opinion, and we've seen the number come down a little bit. I don't hate the money line here, but give me Sparty with the points. So that will take us. There he is. He's liking the show as well, Tom. We appreciate you checking in here on the Woodward Bet Show, and we're back in your Sparties here tonight. So glad to have you amongst the others here watching the show. So we appreciate all of you guys, but Tom is making a special Woodward Bets appearance. Maybe he's checking in on that jars, Scott. Maybe he's looking for some hookups there, but glad to have them here a part of the Woodward Bets crew. So best bets time. Let's see if we can replicate last night 4-1-1. Let's do it again here tonight to give the people some winners. What do we got?
All right, Chris, I am going to start an NBA. I know it's a little bit after 7 o'clock here, so I won't give you any of those. But the one I like is at 7:30 tonight. I think I'm going to take the Lakers, given Brooklyn 3 points. I think them without being out Durant tonight is going to hurt. Obviously, Kyrie as well. So I'm going to be looking at the Lakers here in this one. And then I also have one other one, Chris, in the NHL tonight. Was actually texting back and forth a little bit here with Beastie, but I'm going to look at this Dallas-New Jersey game. I'm going to go the over 6 goals. Started at 5.5. It's been bet up to 6. I think there'll be some goals scored in this game here, so I'm going to roll with the over in this Dallas and New Jersey hockey game.
I like it. I'm going to stick with basketball here. I got 3 that I like for tonight. I'm going to go with Michigan State as one of my best bets here. Plus 4.5 here in Illinois, so hopefully you can get that one in, or you already did. NBA, I'm going to go with San Antonio on the road in Houston, -5 here on this number. Numbers kind of all over the place. There are some -5.5, so if you can grab a 5, much prefer that. Get a nice pace-up spot here against Houston, who plays very little defense. Houston, just a terrible team. I think the Spurs get it going here tonight and cover this number. Also going to go with Portland at home here, Scott. Minnesota's been playing some good ball, no doubt. They are the favorites here in this game, but I like Portland here at home, even without Damian Lillard. 3 points looks like the number here. So give me Portland to win this game. I think they win this one, but I like them a lot at home with those 3 points. So Michigan State plus the 4.5, Portland plus 3, and San Antonio in Houston -5 for me here for my best bet. Scott, final thoughts for the people Tuesday night. What do we got?
Man, just if you're watching, we really appreciate you guys watching us. If you hit that subscribe button, we'd really appreciate that. Hit that like button for us as well. And as Beastie mentioned, a lot of other good shows here on the Woodward Sports Network. Always fun to see Adam cracking up there, lighting up a stogie and laughing about all those Stafford haters. And, of course, we got Neil and the boys there with McCarty and Joik. And then we obviously have the bottom line with Braylon, Ryan, and Maz. So make sure you're checking us out. You can see us on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, all those fun spots. But definitely, if you're watching right now, leave us a message on our Twitters. Hit that subscribe button and hit that like button, as we mentioned. And we appreciate every one of you guys, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. Like Scott said, plenty of places to listen. If you're on YouTube, We appreciate the chatter back and forth. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to get notified when the shows go live. But like you said, plenty of other great shows here on the network. One more shout out here to our other sponsor here on the show, and that's Better Rate Mortgage. Make sure you are checking them out at mybetterrate.com. But again, at Better Rate Mortgage, family more than blood. If you're looking for that new mortgage, come get treated like family. Actually, get treated better. mybetterrate.com. Give them a call, 248-480-4467. So two great sponsors here of the show in all the different areas that you are going to need here with My Better Rate Mortgage and JARS. So thank you so much for them. So for Scott, for our boy Spencer, producing the show behind the glass, appreciate all his hard work. I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck with your bets and your fantasy tonight, and we will catch you right back here tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Have a good night, everybody.